I want to go back and revisit the baptism of Yeshua by John. And that baptism is an incredibly important event in my life on a personal level because it represents the kind of experience I had as a young boy. This is very personal, very intimate, and beautiful. And that experience that Yeshua had when he was baptized by John seems to be a pattern that I think is going to be true for all of us. It seems that way. It seems that when Yeshua was baptized, what happened is that he was also resurrected. And it was the coming of Yahweh into the manifestation of Yeshua. In other words, a union of the lover and the loved. That was the hallmark event. And it was the mother, the divine mother, who said, "This is my son with whom I am well pleased." And it makes so much sense to me because the divine mother was excised from the temple by King Josiah. King Josiah came into the temple and said, "We need to reform this." And out went Asheratah, the divine mother. Out, gone, amongst other things. And so the baptism of Yeshua by John was in fact the restitution, the reinstatement of the orientation that existed in the first temple. And that orientation is the joining of Yahweh and Yeshua. And I think my own experience is that way. And my experience is that the moment that I had of my connection with the divine was in fact the arrival of my angel. It was my connection with my angel. And I welcome that connection, and I still hold that connection priceless and precious. And it is a personal and intimate connection. So I'm going to launch out on some speculation here, probably much farther than I should, but I think that's what happened to Paul. I think what happened to him was a connection with his own angel. I don't know that he had an experience with Yeshua, the incarnated Yahweh. I just listening to his words and all that he said, it seems to me that it was his own angel that he united with. And in that uniting, there was, again, the lover and the loved. Because I don't think it was a encounter with Yeshua directly. Because I don't think that's what happens. And in my own life and in the lives of others that I've seen, it seems to be really the manifestation of the angel who is unique to each of us. I can't stress that enough. And that is the intimacy that represents to me the unfolding of the cosmos and the expansion of who we are when our angel arrives and we welcome our angel into our being and we are united, the lover and the loved. And that's what takes us on our journey of exteriority or exteriorization, where we move outside of the shackles of time and space, the shackles of time and space, because that is a paradigm of this world. And many times you hear people say, well, reality is an illusion. Well, yeah, the reality of time and space is an illusion, but the reality of the intimacy and glory of the most personal connection in the cosmos is something different. I don't think you can describe reality by computation or by theorems or by concentration. I think it's just illusory. What is not illusory is the intimacy and I don't even know how to say the love that is part of the cosmos as it expands. So to be part of the expanding cosmos it's imperative that we join in that expansion in the context of our relationship and our bond with our angel. And what I mean is that I don't think it's a good idea to try and exteriorize reality if you don't have a relationship with your angel. In other words, I don't think you can move outside of yourself to understand and experience the cosmos unless you have your angel connection. In other words, I think it's also quite dangerous because you're trying to do something which is not necessarily what you should be doing. You're trying to artificially send yourself into the cosmic consciousness without the proper representation, without the proper relationship. That is the guide to our participation in an expanding universe. And we exteriorize ourselves in order to be able to participate in that. So it's one of many things. I think the one that's the most interesting is the idea that we should know good and evil. You know, as the prince of this world said, you will know good and evil. Well, how could that be? How can you know good and evil outside of a relationship with the divine? It's the divine that decides the nature of good and evil, and where it is and where it will be found and where it won't be found. The idea that you could decide that in some sort of strange, I don't even know the right word. I think it's kind of almost a spell. That is the sorcerer's promise that you will be able to understand good and evil, that you will know it. And the reality is that you can only learn those things from the divine, from El Elyon, from Yahweh and Yeshua. That's where that knowledge comes from. And so it is that same kind of thinking that takes us into expanding consciousness in the cosmos, which is a very personal thing. It's a personal relationship with the cosmos as it expands between our angel and our being and the participation in the calling that we have for ourselves. In the same way that you cannot, by your own volition, understand good or evil, by your own volition, I don't think you can understand and participate in the expanding cosmos or the ability to understand that in the context of your own calling. I just don't think it can be done. So the work is to do the work of meditation and to try and begin to open ourselves up to the image of our angel. That's the most profound subject of meditation that I can think of. It's meditating on your angel, meditating on the lover who you love, who loves you, who loves me. And that meditation allows us to journey, to make an exterior journey, beyond which is the nature of who we are as human beings, walking in the realms of the prince of this world. So how do we rise? Well, there's not a rising as such, there's an expansion. I think to think of the journey into the divine hierarchy as a linear rise is probably not so correct. I think the correct way to think about it is an expansion. It's an outgoing. That is an intuitive experience made real. So we think of it, we intuit that it's there, and we do the work, and we open ourselves up to the possibility of that. And when it shows up, we say yes. And it is in that saying of yes that our ability to expand our calling within the context of the relationship we have with our angel is extremely powerful. And that's the work of the baptism of John, the arrival of Yahweh in the presence of Yeshua. and the joining of them as lover and loved is an incredibly powerful thing. That's the resurrection that I think of. And the way that I understand that, as I've said a couple of times, is to go and look into the text of the Gospel of Thomas. Sorry, Philip. I love Thomas. This is about Philip. And that text says that people think that Yeshua died and he was resurrected. But that is not the case. He was resurrected and then he died. And if you meditate on that for a moment, you'll make, I think, the kind of sense out of it that I have. That's the most logical thing that could ever be. It answers so many questions. It solves so many riddles and puzzles. And you think then, after the passing of Yeshua on the cross, it was the ascension of Yeshua and Yahweh united as divine beings, rising in the divine hierarchy to assume their rightful calling. And some of the other stuff is it just gets so darn confusing. And I think that I'm at a point in my walk where I no longer want to deal with things that don't make any sense. I just don't take it on faith. I take it on experience, and I have to do that with sincerity. That's the key to understanding it. To be willing to see all aspects of how you're doing with what you think you are understanding. How do you feel? What's your experience? Not how does it sound, or is it logical, or some theologian think you're crazy. I don't know that I can go there anymore. The most simple and basic explanations are so profoundly beautiful that I'm going to go there. I'm going to do that. And so I'm hopefully encouraging you to do the same, to have your own experience as your telltale. A telltale on a sailboat is a little cloth strip on the sail, and when the wind puffs, the little cloth strip moves around and you get to tell where the wind is. A telltale. And our experiences are telltales. They are ways to begin to understand where the wind of the Spirit blows. How can we follow it? How can we trim our sails to get a better course? To be closer in, get the most speed. How can we navigate with that? And I think that's the way to understand the expanding cosmos and how to participate in it, and how to join in that exteriorization, the expansion of the exterior world that we can participate in the context of our calling and in the safety of the relationship that we have with our angel that guides us in this journey. And to do that without an angel, to try and reach out into that, is a kind of sorcery that I don't think is going to work. So seek that meditation as something you might decide to practice. And I find it to be incredible, and it is a physical change. It's a meditation that affects me physically. I can feel it. I can feel the presence as I open myself up, and there is a physicality to that that's so powerful. I just love it. In fact, it's so powerful that it kind of scares me, really. It's scary stuff. It's like confronting beauty. It's can be kind of scary business. Just sometimes you have to really pay attention and stay focused and grounded and cling on to the things that are stabilizing for you, which is your angel, to come to a full attention and grips with what these events mean. So join me in meditations on angels. Amen.